did a video explaining the fact that I'm going to be stepping into synastry next. And, it's a plethora of advice I can give, things I can teach you and make known around this. But I'm starting off with the sun synastry. So we're talking about sun to sun synastry between another person. So what do I mean? Okay, so if we, and I'm like, listen, I'm being very step by step with this. So on this video, I'm talking about just the sun in aspect to another person's sun when it comes to synastry. So I'm going to start off with if you have a sun conjunct another person's sun. That means that your sun sign is the same element as their sun sign. Okay, so if you have a sun in Libra and the other person has a sun in Libra, or you have a sun in Taurus and the other person has a sun in Taurus. So we're talking about sun and sun conjunct synastry. When you have sun and sun conjunct each other, this could be a very understanding synastry between two people. It's like you click, like you get the other person. Like you could be talking about something, they could be talking about something, and then you can have the same approach to it. Even if you have different understandings around it, you can say, okay, I could see why you would approach a situation that way. I could see why you said that. I can see why you handled things the way that you did. It's like you get why the person did what they did. You get their motives. You get their ego style. You get how they interact. You get how they project themselves, right? And you like it. You like it because you see eye to eye. So with sun conjunct sun, this could be a very good synastry to have between somebody because you can be on the same page. Like you're less likely to get in each other's way. There's no opposition there. There's no square there. The only thing that I would say when it comes to sun conjunct sun, I don't really feel like all elements I don't feel like all signs should get with the sign that's the same as them every single time. And I know it's more in the chart that can constitute for, the same signs to get together, the same sun signs. But the reason why is because sometimes with sun to sun synastry, it's hard to grow because you're going to be more about why the person, I can understand what you did. It's like why a person did what they did, even if the person could have done things differently. It's too much. It's too much of the same ideology and being in the same understanding of things. And it's not enough bouncing off differences. I'm not saying it can't be done, but depending on the chart, but we're just talking about the sun right now. It's too much of seeing things the same way. And I think some signs, like unless they really know themselves, some sun signs, they don't really do good with other sun signs that's the same as them, But I feel like, with the sun, yes, the sun being more about our ego, we don't like for our egos to be challenged a lot of the times. We don't. Because we want to feel like and feel safe and secure in the decisions that we're making. And we want to feel like people have our back and support us. And then when they can't really understand the way that we project ourselves, like for me as a Gemini, I love corresponding and interacting with other Geminis, as far as conversation, because I be feeling like they get how I am versus somebody that's not one. Because I'm like, dang, you don't even get where I'm coming from, and this is how I'm trying to express myself. So the sun and sun synastry is like able to understand how the other one and why the other one will express themselves in a certain way, but that's not always right. Because like for me or just anybody, it's like sometimes we do need somebody to challenge our take, like the way that we express ourselves. Sometimes we do need people to challenge what we represent and how we do so. Sometimes we do. And because the challenging aspect can help us see where we might need to change things within ourselves, which in return can help us grow for the better. And then next time we're like, okay, I could see how I could have did that different. I could see how I could have approached that situation different. So sun and sun, although they are comfortable with each other, they know each other. I could be like, we giving each other dab, like, yeah, that's how I would have done it too. You know what I'm talking about. Sometimes we need that person to be like, okay, you know what? I get it. Or maybe I don't. And that I'm not calling you wrong, but I see where you can do this, and that way. And then you see, okay, you actually take it in as constructive criticism and you do it that way and you see you advance. So sometimes, yes, you do need somebody to be able to say, or like see things different and be able to say, point out certain things that you may not have seen, or you don't see a certain things in a certain way that actually benefits you. So you keep approaching things the same way and you're not understanding why you can't advance. But then when somebody else with a different mindset or a different approach comes, and then they can tell you differently, and then you can say, okay, I can apply this if I need to, and then you can see how you can advance. Okay, so conjunct suns are good for mutual understanding and agreement and feeling understood. So that's good, but at the end of the day, they may get in each other's way sometimes more, especially if there are not enough opposition in their chart to set that off. So sometimes you can't really see things clearly within the relationship enough to grow, and then you outgrow each other, or you decide like, okay, this isn't for me, because you really do want to go with a situation that's a little bit more challenging, not negative, but a situation to where you can see that you bounce traits off of one another, different traits off of one another, because different things and different aspects of ourselves make us a whole person. Okay, so you got to keep that in mind when you're dealing with sun to sun synastry. But and sometimes whenever you have the sun focused on in one place on one thing, the sun can kind of blur what's really going on. And I kind of feel like with sun to sun, sometimes that's what happens. It's like it blurs the reality of the other person, like what you're dealing with. Not necessarily the moon. I can talk about how that plays out with the moon, but with the sun, it can really, like, you will be letting a person get away with negative behavior, or just not really seeing the person for who they really are. And it's just like, you don't really know the person because you're not really knowing the person for what they are. It's like you kind of knowing the person from the traits that you resemble. So if you do want to be with the same person that's the same sun sign element as you, it's just nice sometimes to really sit down and have open, honest conversations where you can be like, okay, you know what? We do agree on the way we see things a lot of times, the way we approach things, but like, how can we try to work on giving honest feedback to each other, because we don't want to be in situations where we're always right either. But sun to sun conjunction and synastry is good for like mutual agreement, but it's not always good for growth. A lot of times with people with sun to sun synastry, they have to, instead of them growing together, a lot of times you will see them kind of split or distance themselves from each other to interact with other people to get that growth. And then they come back together, or they don't, but still. Okay, so this has been Sun Conjunct Sun Synastry. Please subscribe.